My name is Teddy, and you're listening to Two Broads Talking Politics. I want you to pay special attention to special elections.
Are you listening?
Hi everyone, this is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics. We are continuing our week of special election coverage, and today I am speaking with Councilwoman Lena Gonzalez from the Long Beach City Council, and she is running for the State Senate in California in District 33. Hi, Lena.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So, could we start by talking a little bit about your background and why you've decided to run for the State Senate?
Sure, absolutely. And thanks for the opportunity to jump on. Yeah, I always like to start off first by saying that I am a mom. I'm the only, mom in the race right now, which is pretty exciting because that's a lot of a large part of who I am and why I create policies and why I'm doing this in the first place. But I have been, I'm the daughter of an immigrant. My mother immigrated here when she was about 7 years old, grew up in San Pedro. My father was a truck driver for 30 years, so I kind of come from this really humble home. And I became a mom at the very young age of 19. And so having all of that in my history and my background has really led me to where I'm at now. And I've been with the city of Long Beach for 10 years, the first 5 years working for then Vice Mayor Robert Garcia, who's now our mayor, and then the last 5 elected, which is really exciting. And since we're part-time in the city council, I've actually held a job at this little tech firm called Microsoft, and I've been there for 5 years. So that's been really exciting having this private experience, but also being a public servant.
All right, and so this is a special election in the state senate, and this is a special election for a seat that's come open because the incumbent was elected to a statewide seat. Is that right?
That's correct. He's now our state commissioner, insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara, and his election was all said and done right after Thanksgiving, so very exciting for him. He's the first openly LGBTQ representative statewide.
And did I see that he has endorsed you to replace him?
Yes, he has endorsed me, which is an honor to have his endorsement.
Yes, excellent. And so this being California, this is one of these jungle primaries that's going to take place. Yeah. And when is the primary?
Primary is March 26th, so right around the corner. Very, very quick.
Okay, great. So then tell us a little bit about this district, kind of where in California this is and what's sort of the representation of the district.
Yeah, absolutely. It is the 33rd Senate District, and it is 80% of the district is the city of Long Beach. So the western portion, which includes downtown Long Beach, central Long Beach, and a bulk of North Long Beach, and then goes all the way into cities like the Southeast LA region, which is inclusive of Lakewood, Paramount, Signal Hill, as well as Southgate, Linwood, all the way up to Huntington Park and even into a portion of South LA. So a very sort of narrow district. About half of the district is foreign-born. About 70% of the district is Latina. So you have very hardworking families throughout the district, and a district that is just very dynamic. It just kind of runs all along the 710 and just is this really beautiful collaborative of very diverse families, but very hardworking, as I mentioned.
And what are some of the issues that you're hearing about from people as you talk to them, the kinds of things that they're really concerned about right now?
So some of the issues that have come up certainly are, number one, like the environment is a big one, not just at the state level, but I think specific to local issues. We've dealt with it in Long Beach, having the port in our backyard. Areas like air quality, the LA River Master Plan, which I've been on the committee of, making sure that our water is clean and that our air is clean, but also just the issues with contamination underground that has lessened the economic attraction to some of the areas, especially in the southeast area. I think those kind of comprehensively have been, major issues within the district that need to be addressed. And having that state support, a strong leader in the Senate, to help through some of those issues are going to be key. Another issue and area is education. We have incredible institutions in the region, so Cal State Long Beach, Long Beach City, Long Beach Community College, and Cal State Dominguez Hills, which is sort of a commuter school. Having more funding for those schools and tackling issues like homelessness within students. I think Long Beach City College has dealt with 1 in 5 students there that are experiencing homelessness. So housing issues, they're kind of all intertwined within the education scope. So sitting down with those leaders those have been top of mind in terms of the education realm. And then, of course, like I'd mentioned, affordable housing is always a key component statewide, but I think in this district specifically, knowing that people are being priced out of areas and they don't have, the means to be able, the wages aren't keeping up with increase in housing costs, I think is always of major concern, and building more housing, and especially making sure that cities, not just in the Senate district, but cities adjacent to us, that they're holding up their end of the bargain in terms of building more affordable housing is going to be key.
So you're in a district that's similar to mine in one way. I live in Chicago, but the similarity is that it's a district that anytime there's a vacancy, all the Democrats come out.
Yes.
But in some ways that makes it hard for the voters to sort of differentiate between different candidates. So I'm wondering sort of what you think sort of sets you apart, the things that you would want your voters to know about why they should select you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. And I think the first thing I lead with is, you can't take away from me the fact that I'm a mom. And I keep hitting that point because I am. And that's a lot of why I create policies, is because I represent a lot of families. It's hard in this day and age to be a family that's just trying to get by, especially in the district that I would potentially represent. And knowing that median income levels are decreasing in some areas of the district, being a mom, and I was a single mom, at one point, understanding that dynamic personally has given me a lot of opportunity to really create space on the policy front, making sure that policies are really looking, that I'm really looking through that lens first and foremost. And I said, and aside from that, my private employment through Microsoft, having that private business experience, looking at technology not as a way to hinder, the future, but also looking at ways that we can upskill and reskill people for 21st century jobs, and also making sure that education, that we're prepared as much as possible here in the state of California with educating and preparing our students for those jobs as well. And I think those are things that I bring to the table that I want to continue working on, that I've worked on in Long Beach, but I want to continue working on in the state. That really set me apart from other opponents. And especially coming from a large city, we're a city in Long Beach of 500,000. We have 2 incredible academic institutions. We have a port in our backyard. We're dealing with coastline issues. I think those have prepared me very well for this next opportunity.
So a lot of our listeners are moms, as I am as well.
Oh, great.
And, I think we get very excited when we think about moms in elected office, but being a mom can also create challenges in campaigning. Can you talk a little bit about sort of campaigning as a mom and balancing, especially, you're in the city council and you're working and you're a mom, and sort of how you think about balancing all of those?
Oh, gosh. Well, I would be lying if I didn't say it was grueling. Campaign work is, whether mom or not, it's always grueling, right? Like asking people for money and walking. And as much as I know what the end goal is, it's very difficult to decide to do it. So I would say that the very first set of people that I needed buy-in from was my family, and sitting down with my partner, Adam. We have 3 boys together. And so we're a blended family, but I think that was the first point for me, is to ensure that they knew exactly what this took for me to get to office, and that they were just as much as invested as I was. And I think it's tough. There's times when, I have to be away from the family, evenings, weekends, but I know that in the temporary sacrifice, that the long end goal is going to be so beneficial, not just for my family, but for so many families in the district, because I really do feel that I'm coming from a very genuine place where I just want to create this good policy represent my community very well and make sure that every family has opportunities like mine has been given. So that's really what I lead with and what I'll always continue with as an elected official.
And what do your kids think about you running?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have a little one that just turned 4 years old, so he has no idea. He's just like, Mom, who are all these people that are like around me? Why does everybody like say hi to you? And there's so many people in and out of the house. And I have a soon-to-be 18-year-old who thinks it's really cool, and him and his friends have, really taken a lot more interest in what this means, and especially in this day and age with sort of youth creating a movement. I think it's a really critical time, and my son is really, really excited. Both my stepson and my older son are very excited to kind of see how this will all play out and where they can volunteer and get their friends to volunteer. So it's awesome to have them all invested in like that.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
So what are some of the ways that our listeners can help with your campaign if they're either in the area or if they're long distance?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think first and foremost, just listening to this podcast and these amazing women that are doing this, I want to thank you for giving me that opportunity to talk about my campaign and a little bit about myself. But you can go to voteLenaGonzalez.com and check my website out. There's opportunities to volunteer. There's opportunities to contribute to the campaign. Every dollar matters. I think, we always have very low dollar amounts where everyone can participate. It doesn't have to be just, people that are contributing large amounts. It's every single person, can make an investment in this campaign. And just learning about the issues and providing ideas, if there are some, for the state of California, and even outwardly, if there's other states that are doing some incredible work, I'd love to hear what that looks like too. So thank you.
I have seen on your social media that you've gotten a ton of really great endorsements. Can you talk a little bit about the endorsements you've gotten and also about sort of the process of getting endorsements for our listeners who are thinking about running for office?
Yes, I think the endorsement list, and that was critical in the very beginning, because all you have is, people that I've worked with along the way over the last 10 years. I've created policy with them. I've, sat down with them. I've supported them during their elections. And having that network of support is key in the early stages of a campaign. So having the incumbent support, having some of our large players, that have great integrity and great reputations on both sides of the aisle have been very important to me. So, Mayor Garcia from the city of Long Beach, the largest city represented in the district, is big. Having women who stand for progressive values, like Holly Mitchell and Lena Gonzalez, the Latino caucus chair, are very important. And then also having support from labor, who their members are all working families. So that to me was very key, and having those endorsements as well to make sure that I showed not only, individual support, but support from organizations that, really take interest in this and that I'll be working with when I get to the state Senate. So we have the most endorsements in that case because of the lot of work that I've done in the past, but also just looking ahead, they know that they feel confident enough in our race, in our campaign, that we'll be alongside them with when major issues come up.
Is there anything else that you wanted to make sure we talk about?
I want to say that, it's very hard as a mom and a woman to run, sometimes scary, but I just hopefully urge whoever's listening tonight and the women that are listening that they can really look at my race and other races that have happened nationwide as inspiration to run their own races and to just go for it. Sometimes it's hard, and they say that you have to ask women like 30 times before she says yes, and it's totally true. And I just hope that it, provides a little piece of inspiration for other women to run local, state, federal races, PTA, whatever it might be.
I've probably been asked more than 30 times by now.
I think so. You're right.
My son just today told me that I should run for Congress because we need more moms in Congress. I was like, well,
that's right.
That's true,
That's
honey.
Exactly right.
We have a mom representing us already, but okay.
Yes, exactly. We'll need more, so I'm on board. Let me know.
All right. Well, Lena, thank you so much for talking to me tonight. I'm really excited about your race, and we will put
Thank
up
you.
information on our website with your website and your social media so people can get in touch with you and hopefully support your race.
Watch her sing with the smile like prom.
Hey everyone, this is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics. I'm on with my co-host Sophie. Hey Sophie.
Hey, Kelly.
And joining us today, we have a candidate for the California State Senate in District 1, where there is a special election that will be taking place. And so we're speaking with Silke Pflueger. Hi, Silke.
Hi there, both of you. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, thanks so much for joining us. So I know you have a really interesting story about your life and what led you to this moment. So can you fill us in a little bit? What's your background and why did you decide now to run for state senate?
Yeah, sure. So I am an army brat. I'm an immigrant. I'm the daughter of a refugee. I'm a breast cancer survivor. I'm a laser engineer. And after the 2016 election, I went from looking at politics as a spectator sport to politics as a hand-on-hand combat sport. So I became one of the co-organizers of the Tahoe Truckee Indivisible group, and Tahoe and the Truckee specifically is also what I call home. And the special election is coming up with the primary in March, and there was no Democrat running. And I thought it was really important for us to have a Democrat run in that election to give voters a choice, because other people that are on the ballot are they don't stand for what we are standing for and what I stand for, I don't even want to say liberal politics. I stand for people. My opponents are all against taxes. That's all good. I understand that, but they are not really, I don't see how they support people in the district. So that's my main motivation why I'm running. And yeah, that's it.
Can you tell us a little bit about District 1? Like, where is it in California, and sort of what are the, main, cities or towns there? What are the people like?
Yeah, it's a very interesting district. First of all, it's really, really beautiful. It reaches from the north, the Trinity Alps, the border to Oregon. It includes Redding, then goes down the Sierra, so along the border to Nevada, and it includes Lassen National Park and reaches all the way down to south of Lake Tahoe. And it goes to the Sacramento suburbs. So some of the eastern Sacramento suburbs are also in the district. So mostly it's very, very rural, and people in the district really feel neglected by Sacramento. And I think that is partially because it's always been Republicans that represent the district, and they don't get much done for them. I think having somebody that really speaks to the people directly helps them with their issues, like accessibility to healthcare. So the only ACA plans in Truckee that are available, our closest big medical facilities are in Reno, and the ACA plans have a $40,000 copay if you seek out-of-state treatment. Mm-hmm. Same goes for the north of the state, where the closest facilities are in Oregon. Same thing, either absolutely no coverage or outrageous deductibles. And then, of course, fires. I mean, Butte County and Paradise is just not in my district, but it doesn't matter whether it's in the district or not. We all live in constant fear of fire, and everybody talks about it. And typically Republicans want to go clear cutting because they say when there's no trees, there's no fire, which really isn't true because if you look at the photos of Paradise, all the big trees are still standing. It's the underbrush and the fact that it hasn't burned and that there were no prescribed burns and no fires in 100 years. That's what's causing it, the problem. So I want to highlight the problems that are there and help the communities that are in these fire-prone areas. So one good example is Nevada City, a very progressive area in this rural district. They just put together a goat GoFundMe. So it's a GoFundMe to fund a herd of goats that's going to eat the underbrush and help them with fire mitigation and fire resiliency. We shouldn't be begging people for their money to fund some goats. You know, there should be state funds available for communities and also for people to help with fire resiliency and with defensible space.
So you mentioned that it's often been Republicans representing this area, and that's true at the U.S. congressional level, too. What do you see as sort of your path to victory in a district like this? This is a primary where it's the top two advance to the general regardless of party. So what's your sort of your path, your strategy for winning in the primary and then making it to the general and winning there?
Yeah, so it's a special election, which means I looked at how many votes were cast in past special elections, and it's a really abysmally low number. So the district has 920,000 people, I think, and there are 500 and a few thousand registered voters. And typically, that's true for all the Senate districts in California. And typically in special elections between, I would say, 60 and 160,000 people vote. And that's not in the primary, that's in the general special election. So it's all about getting out the vote and getting the same people excited that were excited voting for Jessica Morse and Audrey Denny in the midterms. Jessica Morse and Audrey Denny were the two candidates that were running for the Democrats in the midterms. They both lost, but they both made great strides, improved the numbers. Jessica got the most votes of any losing candidate, I think, in California in the midterms. So really it's about energizing the base and getting people to return their ballots.
And so you mentioned that you were one of the founders of the Indivisible group there. How active is Indivisible in that group? What are the types of things that they're doing, and is that helpful then in your run for office?
Yeah, so we're mostly a virtual group, so we're around 1,000 people on Facebook, but we had a few events in Truckee, and it's always amazing to see how many people turn out for these. So we organized the Families Belong Together rally last summer where we had 300 or 400 people show up, and we are a town of 30,000 people. So if you look at it was actually in percentages a bigger rally than there was in Chicago or other big cities. We organized a protest to protect Mueller the day after the election, or was it 2 days after the election? And we had 100 people show up essentially on the spur of a moment and protest, to ensure that the new acting attorney general doesn't fire Rosenstein or fire Mueller. So it's a very active community in terms of getting people out. We had so many door knockers in the midterms that I know people who got talked to, who got 3 visits from people. So really it's a very vibrant and a very engaged community that I'm tapping into.
So you had mentioned that you were an immigrant to this country, and on your website, there's a nice little biography of you, and it mentions that you've traveled a lot in the U.S., but also in Europe and Asia. And so I'm wondering if you could speak to any lessons you think your travels and your experiences living outside of the United States might give you in terms of what can you learn from other states and other countries that you might apply to policy in California?
Yeah, thanks. That's an awesome question. I was just in Europe. I had to go there for my mother-in-law's birthday. And what really struck me in Germany, and then also we did a few days in Italy, what struck me was the amount of small businesses there that do high-tech work. So we drove into Milano, and there's one small, relatively high-tech company after the other. And then I think a weekend later, I drove into Reading, and there's some industry, but I think it could benefit tremendously if it had a state school up there, like a state college or a state university that fosters new jobs and education and outsources new companies. So in Germany, the apprenticeship programs are really, really good. So perhaps I'll talk about my husband's experience with that. He was 15, and he was your typical 15-year-old boy who was really interested in academics or in succeeding in school. And so in Germany, it's perfectly okay to drop out of school when you're 15. It's you're not a high school dropout, and you go and do an apprenticeship. And so he spent 3 years where he had 3 days of practical training and work at Ford Motor Company. And then he had 2 days of public school that kind of accompanies these apprenticeship programs. And after 3 years, he was a tool and die maker. So he had a real job, a real education, and hands-on skills. And it's not something that's frowned upon, It's not something where people say, oh, you're just a tool and die maker. So I had an interesting conversation with somebody else about that this weekend, and she said, yeah, but this is terrible because this is a dead-end program, and there'll be tool and die makers, and if we expose people to further ideas, they can actually become more, they can further their education, and so it's important to keep people in school and expose them to everything. Well, this is where the second part of my husband's story comes in, which is that his master trainer at Ford told him towards the end, he's like, you need to move on. You're going to be bored with being a tool and die maker, and you really need to move on. So he got his high school diploma in a year of evening school while he was working, and then went on to university and became essentially a rocket engineer, and now has a PhD in mechanical engineering as well. So it's a great program because it gives people a foundation, and it's a great program because you can keep on going afterwards. And there's 15 states in the U.S. that already have these programs, and they're mostly on the East Coast. And I think they would be tremendously good for the state, and I think it would be even better or even more pointed for the rural communities, which may not be as interested or as accessible to go to Stanford and become the next big internet company founder, to start programs like that in California and in our district.
So I believe that you are a crocheter and have done some craftivism. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's what sucked me into all of it. Crocheters and knitters. After the election, I picked up on the pussy hats, and I made, I think, 100 pussy hats. I essentially crocheted until my hands were bleeding. Not literally, but almost. They were definitely cramping. And I raised $8,000 for Planned Parenthood and the ACLU with that. And then I found some friends and we got together, and we have a website that is essentially the Etsy of the resistance. So we have handmade items, and the buyers get to say which progressive cause their money goes to, and we donate the work and the yarn and everything. So yes, that's what got me there as well.
I love it.
One day you crochet and the next day you run for Senate. Damn it.
Uh-oh, don't tell my husband that. I've been knitting. If our listeners would like to help out your campaign, how can they do that?
That would be very awesome. I need contributions to the campaign because all of this is so very expensive. Every day I'm in new disbelief on what I now have to spend money for. Before I even get a single postcard out to a voter or can get to call a single voter. So my website is Silke, and that's SILKE for Senate.com, and there's a big fat contribute button on there, and it would be absolutely fantastic. And everything's good. I got a $2 donation from somebody the other day. That was great. I got much bigger contributions. Everything helps. Just the voter data alone for my district are $22,000. And that's just a start. That is before I have contacted anybody. So any help would be greatly appreciated. And also, if there's any postcard writers out there, or phone bankers, or text bankers, sign up as a volunteer on my website because I need each and every one of them.
All right, we'll put a link to your website up on our website as well. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for running. As a longtime Indivisible person myself, I'm thrilled to see Indivisible members taking the plunge to run for office themselves.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly what I envisioned 2 years ago when I started this, but, it's... And I found out that the deeper I get into this, the more passionate I get about it. In the beginning it was just like, we need somebody to run. And now it's like, we need somebody that stands for our people, because the other people that are running for it aren't really standing for everybody. They're not standing for the people who lose their homes in a fire. They don't really, they're just like, oh, we need less taxes, and that's their main focus, and it's really sad. So I'm getting more and more into it, and I'm really excited. And if I beat the odds and become the new senator, I will be honored to fight for this district. So.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you guys.
Thanks for listening to Two Broads Talking Politics. Our theme song is called Are You Listening? Off of the album Elephant Shaped Trees by the band Immunuri, and we're using it with permission of the band. Our logo and other original artwork is by Matthew Weflin and was created for use by this podcast.